Hello, hello. We have another new chapter of One Piece. This one I have seen some buzz on Twitter about. People saying that this is the peak of One Piece. The ending of this chapter is the greatest ending of any One Piece chapter ever, I saw one person say. Seems insane to me, but I don't know. I'm willing to believe it. I was thinking a bit before about like what is peak One Piece. I think a lot of people rate the moments kind of in between arcs where we're kind of jumping around the world and a whole lot of like major plot implication things are happening. Those times when the scope kind of opens up and we're introduced to the things that could be major factors in upcoming arcs, or seeing kind of like a big perspective on the true dynamics of power and stuff. And I think that's something that One Piece is uniquely very, very good at. It really set the standard for this type of world building, and I think in a lot of ways it still hasn't been exceeded. And that's when that world building strength really comes out in a way that's super enthralling. But if you don't know, the anime finally got to Gear 5. And I've been watching some clips of the animated Gear 5 and kind of just reflecting on the end of Wano and just the end of arcs in general and those big showdown fights. And I realized the real peak of One Piece is those final blows, those final battles of arcs when Luffy finally takes down the villain of an arc or an entire saga. Those moments of catharsis, I think, are still the strongest emotional resonances I've ever had with One Piece. In the end, peak One Piece is Luffy. It's what he's doing. It's following him. It's him as a character. And we haven't seen him in a long time. We haven't seen any of the Straw Hats. We haven't returned to Egghead in months and months and months. So I'm pretty excited because I'm really curious to see what everyone on Twitter is freaking out about. And just a return to our gang. See what's happening on Egghead. See what the Straw Hats are doing. Anyways, this one is called Hostage Situation, which of course refers to the situation on Egghead, where, the scientist man, whose name completely dropped out of my head. I was just about to say Einstein, but he's only kind of loosely based on Einstein. Vegapunk. Vegapunk, the greatest living scientific mind, is now caught up in the middle of a war between so many different factors. It's going to be embarrassing if I try to remember all of them and spend the next 5 minutes just trying to piece together this arc again. So let's just dive back in. I'm sure I'll understand the significance of things as they happen. Have a cute, somewhat pathetic cover story here. I like Sanji peeking through the window. Just never gonna get ahead. Ooh, okay. We're not back to Egghead immediately. The last chapter ended on, the papers reported 2 incidents. Garp disappearing at the Pirate Island, which is being commented on here, and Luffy holding himself up on Egghead Island with Vegapunk. Doesn't say he's dead. He's a man of many legends. Don't worry about him. Yeah, I don't think he's just gonna die off screen. There'll be some more scenes with Garp, but I do think he's not that long for this world. I really do think it's going to be a Snape kills Dumbledore type situation where Kuzan Aokiji finishes off Garp in order to prove a totally unquestionable loyalty to the Blackbeard faction. Anyways, this is cute. Luffy Oni-chan. Makio's baby, and there's the mom and the little bandit crew. Earthquake on this day had no parallel in recorded history. It caused devastation on a vast worldwide scale. Here we see Logtown, very famous location. I like that whenever Oda draws these kind of like snapshots around the world, there's a certain consistency in how he depicts countries from all these different regions of the sea. The East Blue is kind of like just sort of standard European towns and stuff. The South Blue always has kind of like a tropical island feel. You can see there's some palm trees in the background. People wearing Hawaiian shirts and stuff. They're dealing with a tsunami in particular, because they seem a little more like small island, ocean-oriented. The West Blue, this is probably Don Chow, his kingdom. Don Zhao, what was that guy's name? You know, the Chinese modeled kingdom that is now part of the Straw Hat Grand Allegiance. I think this is in the Chinese style. It could also be in the Japanese style, but you know, a country that's already been established. In the back, you can see somebody with that segmented ponytail type thing. And North Blue, always snowy, Eastern European vibes, kind of industrial vibes, big scale machinations and stuff. I don't know, it sticks out to me. And even though, like, none of these are all that unique or interesting or subversive or anything like that, oh, you know, there's China land and Island land and Winterland and stuff. Okay, sure, everything has that. But because everything has that, Oda can use that as a jumping off point, that familiarity as a way to make you excited to see what is the One Piece world's equivalent of Russia or whatever, right? Like, I think that's a lot of the fun of the world building, is just riding that line of the familiar, living up to your expectations, but building those expectations because you know Oda's always going to have a fun little twist on it. In the Grand Line, Balloon freaking out. Epicenter was impossible to pinpoint, making a most anomalous seismic event. There's in Water 7, Deer Iceberg. In the Marines base, there's Hina. Remember, I was like, where's Hina? Where's Hina? Because somebody had a power that was kind of like Hina. There's Hina. Maybe Oda heard complaints that there's no Hina. Then in Wano, there's grown-up Momotaro. The quake happened just 6 days after the vanishing of the Kingdom of Lucia. The earthquake caused the worldwide sea level to rise by about 1 meter. That's huge. That's like hugely devastating. It might not sound like it, but think about all the low-level places that are just completely enveloped by water now. Like, all beaches just got wiped off the map. And this water doesn't just go nowhere. It floods into rivers, which will now just dominate their floodplains. Yeah, crazy. Wild. Maybe eventually it'll lower back down as the seawater pours back into this hole. I wonder why it's happening 6 days after Imu knocked Lulusia off the map. I wonder what it was that created this very delayed after effect. But I really like this. I like the kind of private taking it upon themselves to investigate this. It looks like maybe this is a Marine ship, but certainly it wasn't on the world government's orders to go check this out. They just want everyone to forget about it. Oh, here we see Impel Down. This tropical island where people are running away. I'm not sure where that is exactly. Could be a lot of places. And then, of course, this is on Marijois with Imu as well. Shuddering and shaking. So I think it's basically like we progressed on Egghead up until a point, and then I think right as this big earthquake was going to hit it, we jump back in time, and then we kind of like freeze, and we go all the way around the world and learn all of the things leading up to this earthquake and why it happened. And now we're going to see the impact of the earthquake on Egghead, I think. During the loss of several beaches, yeah, I would say probably all beaches can assume to be underwater now to a large extent. Its tide will ebb eventually. This is, of course, Kamabaka Kingdom, the revolutionary base. Some of these islands get totally flooded. A shark swam right into my house, of course. Huge waves, huge tides. I kind of like this. No, I should say I really like this. It's a bit unique for One Piece, I think, to kind of really settle in on these worldwide impacts of a big disastrous effect. We've had, like, kind of lip service to this before, like just kind of suggesting the idea but not really getting too into it. When Whitebeard was fighting, people were noticing earthquakes and stuff, but we didn't get a sense that it was causing any major problems. And then there's kind of like societal aftershocks of certain things happening, like when major pirates lose power, Whitebeard dying created a power vacuum where all of the islands under his production or protection were suddenly like up for grabs. So there's this idea of like things cascading down and affecting everyone across the world. But they haven't really focused in on that too much. Everything has been kind of like very local, I think. And I think that's like very good because it creates room for the power scale to keep increasing. You know, if you start off right away saying, oh, when Shanks and Whitebeard had their skirmish, people all around the world noticed the split in the sky, and it created this like major meteorological event, the ramifications of which were felt for years. Where do you go after that? Instead, they're just keeping things, you know, to one island. People could see it for miles, but that's it. And now they're ramping it up, and now they have this card remaining in their hand to ramp it up. And the other thing I really like about it is that I'm sure this isn't really top of mind for Oda, but that doesn't mean we can't really kind of look into the reading of this as being somewhat analogous or anticipating the effects of global warming. Climate change is going to increase the tides and the surface level of the oceans almost inevitably. It has been already, but that's just going to happen at an accelerating pace, leading to these sorts of problems. And it's not going to be like an apocalyptic event. It's not going to feel like, oh God, the entire world is ending. It's just going to be like, hey, isn't the tide creeping up higher and higher and higher on this coast? Oh shoot, it's actually high enough now that a lot of these houses are getting displaced. And you know, we're not looking for a day when a Statue of Liberty-sized tidal wave comes and knocks over the entire city of New York, as I'm sure has happened in a lot of disaster movies. But instead, this is how it's going to happen, is just like little incremental increases that just never go backwards. And this low looming sense, like the mayor's kind of startled confusion of, are we really going to be okay? And the answer is no. Anyways, let's move on. Meanwhile, on Future Island Egghead and the New World, water level rises are rising in the world. Could it mean? Naval summons brought a nation-sized fleet that far outclassed even a Buster Call. The island was completely surrounded. Vegapunk's robot, Sea King, Neptunian type things trying to defend. But, yeah, they got some serious firepower on here. A laser firing off. This is definitely Kizaru. It could be like a Pacifista or Seraphim equipped with a laser too, but Kizaru's on these ships, so I assume it's him. Ooh, more Vice Admirals. Dude, I love seeing Vice Admirals. Vice Admirals are in such a sweet spot for me where they're really strong, and they usually have very cool powers. But because they're never gonna have to carry like a whole arc or, you know, even a whole chapter's worth of fighting or something, Oda can go real crazy with the designs and really weird with the powers and just make them really explosive and strange and funny without feeling like, you know, oh geez, how am I gonna like orchestrate a whole fight around this? So who do we got here? Some of these guys look familiar. The guy with scars all over him. I used to know the names of like all the Vice Admirals and stuff too. Like I had it on lock. I had the OP wiki downloaded to my brain, but it's been a while since I've done a full reread, and this sort of stuff has faded, but I can at least point out the ones I recognize and what I know about them. The guy with the scars all over him for sure, and the guy with the big beard is pretty familiar too. The guy with like the very tall looking beard and stuff kind of looks like the guy that had the very, very tall hat before, but I don't think it's him. I think these are new Vice Admirals. And we know that the Navy did that like open recruitment thing where you could just come and instantly become a Vice Admiral or even an Admiral if you were good enough. By the way, I heard a really cool theory about Fujitora. That Fujitora is related to Zoro's family, which is one of the kind of like institutional samurai families of Wano. Anyways, I can't get into it all now. I won't be able to summarize it properly, but I saw it on Twitter. It's really interesting, seems very plausible, very believable, and I like the idea of Fujitora being kind of ultimately an ally. Anyways, yeah, crazy character designs. I think all but the dude with scars all over him and the dude with the big beard, the poofy beard, are new. Those two guys I recognize, but everybody else, crazy. This multi-chin worm motherfucker, this creepy old lady, perhaps. Maybe this is a fish man with a big sword and a top hat looking hat. And then Babe Alert. This girl with the spiked collar and the cigarette. Sheesh. Of course, Oda probably gave her an absolutely ridiculous body. Because that's how he just can't help himself. Okay, 9 Vice Admirals and Admiral Kizaru, of course. You can surrender and come back over here. So he didn't even fire off... No, he did probably fire off that laser, because, yeah, Sentomaru has the other pacifistas. Well, the pacifista later after starting your powers. Whoa, look at this flashback. Young Kizaru. Playing around with the light fruit. The delight of young Sentomaru and young Vegapunk. Dang. Sentomaru's been around for a long time. I guess he really is like the Peach Boy. And he just, ever since he was a little kid, has been caught up in all this nonsense, I guess. Studying the Void Century is a crime even I can't defend Sentomaru. I'm just another cog in the machine. This is such a great payoff because we met all of these characters at the same time too. Right? During the Sabaody arc. So long ago. Sentomaru and Vegapunk, or not Vegapunk, but the pacifistas and Kizaru all show up at the same time, and they have this kind of like weird relationship and stuff. And yeah, no, you can see they were really buds this whole time, but can't go any further. This isn't a battle we want to have either. The more to stride, the more we lose. Rob Lucino's cohorts failed to complete the mission because of the Straw Hats. This is like a unique situation too, because these are definitely on opposite sides. And of course, there's all these muddled allegiances and stuff that we were trying to work through during Egghead Island up until this point. But we've never really seen two opposing forces have this like very open line of communication in One Piece before. Meanwhile, Jay Garcia Saturn, the godhead of defense, whose powers may be turning into a gigantic shadowy animal, but maybe can do other stuff too. Saturn, of course, is like the god of death, the god of the underworld. So, I don't know. I like that he's just eating a sausage. Looks like a good sausage. Just reading the newspaper. I don't know. The 5 Elder Stars have a certain like casualness to their power that I think is really cool. And I hope that they can maintain that. I really don't want to see them jumping around and swinging their clubs like friggin' Yoda. Instead, I want them to have like mysterious ancient powers that aren't really comprehensible. They can kind of use while still remaining superficially geriatric. Interesting here, this idea of they're definitely... Vegapunk is too much of like a positive celebrity figure for them to just be like, we killed Vegapunk because he turned traitor or whatever. They have to put the blame on the Straw Hats. So this idea of Vegapunk is a hostage of the Straw Hats does very, very good PR work. And it's kind of fun that like Morgans was on our side in a broad sense, helping out Vivi and stuff. But now is definitely doing the bidding of the world government in this headline. So you really get the sense that that dude only cares about money, which is fun. And Sentomaru is still defending the island, saying that the Labo phase is currently hosting Dr. Vegapunk, Stella, and 6 satellites. 4 Seraphim protecting them, and 10 members of the Emperor. Wow, the Emperor Straw Hat! Crazy. Still can't get used to that. And we believe to be allied with him, as well as the agents in the lead force from CP0. The rank and fire Cypher agents locked up in the Fabio phase by Sentomaru. Makes sense. Okay, good breakdown. I remember this. Now, what they don't know, of course, is that the Stella York has betrayed, locked up Vegapunk and others to unknown ends. Unclear if York is supporting the world government or just has some third motive, or who knows. Frontier Dome's barrier status is at 100%, which means nothing can get in, nothing can get out. An entire day, we still don't know what's going on there. All the people evacuated. Yeah, we saw that. What if they know too much? Sink them. Yeah, nah, this guy's no good. I guess, like, there's kind of, like, maybe a reading of the situation where the Five Elder Stars are just, like, figureheads to maintain this illusion of democracy and not just having one tyrant, and maybe they don't like it either, but they're just forced to go along with the whims of Emu and are just doing everything they can to, like, mitigate the overwhelming power of Emu. Now, I wouldn't have believed this myself. I think there's a lot of counter evidence to this. But at the same time, it's kind of like, I would have been open to finding out that they're not as evil as they seem, and they're more just sort of, like, entrenched in the system and may have, like, differing opinions. And that may still be true. There may be members of them that are more or less sympathetic or whatever. But Saint Saturn seems like a piece of shit. That's for sure. She has no more benefit to us. Leave her there. She's just a girl. Yeah, Bonnie has always been targeted by the world government. It may be because she's Kuma's daughter. It may also be because of her fruit. They want her to, like, de-age people and help, like, make them live longer. You know, that's kind of a theory as well. I don't know. You have a signal coming from Egg Hunt. Placing a call somewhere. This is a funny, very funny callback. That Kizaru, when he lands on Sabodi, is trying to make a call with a Denden Mushi in his watch, and it's a black one, and it's not working, and he's, like, confused and annoyed. And then way later, someone mentions, oh, these are just interference snails. They don't work as an actual phone. You can only use that to intercept other calls. But I don't think Kizaru ever finds out. Like, I think this is just, like, an unrelated conversation. And then us eagle-eyed, nerdy One Piece readers were like, oh, that explains why Kizaru couldn't get anybody on the phone, is that he wasn't using his phone. He was using the wrong thing. And now someone finally tells Kizaru what it's for. So they're going to tap the call. Ah, York. So York was actually allied with the world government right from the start. It's not that York has some bizarre third motive, but instead just wants to be on the side of the world government against Vegapunk. Now, why York is doing that remains to be seen, but this kind of simplifies things a little bit. When you only know about the Stella's betrayal because I told you. Two are also Vegapunk. Any interest in the Void Sentry, I wouldn't have told you about this. It's the first time we've ever seen just 4 of the 5 Elder Stars hanging out in the Hall of Power. Told you about this. It's good you fired. CB's reached out what the Straw's doing now. The only one to contact you after last night should tell you everything. The Seraphim are here. The fleets are in the wild. Are you going to war with me? Changed our minds. Are you able to create the Mother Flame too? Shoot, what was that? They mentioned it before. They mentioned it right before we switched away from Egghead again. But what was it? It was something to do with, like, an ancient weapon, I think. It was, like, necessary to power and control ancient weapons or something. Glad I sent it to you. It's desired by who? Power plant that creates this is on this island, so probably you won't hurt me or the lab and make me a celestial dragon. We'll be done. Got a deal. First thing I want you to do is come see. Okay. So it's York that's the hostage. Oh, this is so fun. And I really like, too, that, like, you know, we didn't really know exactly how strong the satellites were for the Stella system and stuff. But I was kind of like, there's no way York can just like imprison everybody. Even if York has the Seraphim on their side, I don't think there's any way that they're gonna be able to just like shut down the Straw Hats and the other Stella and all this and all that and all these forces against them. So this makes way more sense. This is pretty freaking sweet. I can see why people were so happy with the end of this chapter. This is just like classic One Piece. This classic like reversal of fortunes. And now we really are setting up phase 2 because it's very simple, right? The world government wants to eliminate Vegapunk, but maintain the facilities on the island that can produce the Mother Flame. So they're going to try to get York out of there without just blowing everything up. And that creates our conditions for actual one-on-one, you know, fighter versus fighter combat. It's a lot of different factors in play, a lot of different forces, but everything can kind of now play out the way we would expect from most arcs, give or take. Everybody's together again. I love it. I love it. Oh, this is so fun. Okay, let's look forward to the next chapter. Looks like no break next week, so I'll see you then. Bye-bye.